Topic 2. The Neighborhood Negotiator, Part 1. The New York Symphony. Welcome back to the English Oasis. In our last episode, we watched Leo break out of the polite prison to make real friends. But today, we face a different side of global living, the side that keeps you awake at night. Moving to a new city like New York is a dream come true, until the dream starts playing heavy metal music at 2:00 a.m. next door. Today, we follow Maya, who moved from a culture where confrontation is avoided at all costs, only to find herself living in a city that eats polite people for breakfast. It's time to master the art of the polite complaint. Maya had finally made it. She was living in a sun-drenched apartment in Brooklyn, New York. She loved the energy, the bagels, and the skyline. But there was one thing she didn't love. Her upstairs neighbor, a drummer named Jax. In Maya's home country, there was a deep, unspoken rule. Harmony above all. You don't complain to neighbors. You endure. You don't argue with landlords. You wait. But Jax wasn't a mind reader. He practiced his double bass pedals every evening, right when Maya was trying to unwind from her high-stress job in marketing. For the first 2 weeks, Maya did nothing. She sat on her sofa, fuming in silence, her heart racing every time the ceiling shook. When she finally saw Jax in the hallway, her English failed her. "Oh, hello," she said with a forced, trembling smile. "The music. It is a bit loud, maybe?" Jax, barely looking up from his phone, replied, "Yeah? Cool. I'm working on a new set. Glad you can hear the rhythm." Maya was devastated. She had tried to be polite, but her English was so soft and indirect that Jax thought she was giving him a compliment. She was suffering from cultural misalignment. In New York, being indirect isn't seen as polite. It's seen as unclear. If you don't state your problem directly, people assume there is no problem. The situation worsened. A pipe under her sink started leaking, and her landlord, Mr. Henderson, a man who had seen everything in New York since 1974, was forgetting to return her calls. Maya would leave voicemails saying, "I'm so sorry to bother you. Mr. Henderson, but if you have a moment, could you perhaps look at my sink? Only if you're not busy." Unsurprisingly, Mr. Henderson was always busy. Maya felt like she was disappearing. She was paying a small fortune in rent, yet she was living with a flood in her kitchen and a rock concert over her head. She realized that her polite English was her biggest enemy. She wasn't being a good neighbor. She was being a doormat. She looked at her reflection in the puddles on her kitchen floor and knew she had to change. She realized that in a city like New York, assertiveness is a survival skill. To protect her peace, she had to learn a new linguistic toolkit. She had to learn how to complain without being mean, how to demand action without being aggressive, and how to use the power of specificity to get what she paid for. Maya decided that tomorrow the silent neighbor was going to find her voice. she was going to stop hoping for change and start negotiating for it. If you've ever sat in your room fuming at a noisy neighbour or a broken appliance because you didn't know how to complain in English without sounding like a jerk, this episode is for you. Hit that like button and subscribe as we help Maya take back her apartment and her sanity. Part 2. The Art of the Firm Boundary. Maya realised that Jax wasn't a villain. He was just living in a world where polite hints didn't exist. To get through to him and to her landlord, she needed to abandon her safe English and adopt a framework she discovered called the PSI Formula Problem Solution Impact. Most people, when they are frustrated, either stay silent or explode into an emotional mess. The PSI formula allows you to be clinical rather than critical. It removes the blame and focuses on the fact. Maya decided to test this on her landlord, Mr. Henderson, first. She stopped leaving "I'm sorry" voicemails. Instead, she wrote an email with a clear, assertive structure. The problem: the pipe under the kitchen sink has a persistent leak that is now causing water to pool on the floor. The impact: this is damaging the floorboards and making the kitchen unusable. The solution: deadline: I need a plumber to visit by Thursday at 5:00 p.m. to prevent further property damage. Please confirm you have received this. She didn't apologize for bothering him. She framed the repair as something that was in his best interest, protecting his floorboards. Within 2 hours, Mr. Henderson replied, "Plumber scheduled for Wednesday morning. Sorry for the delay." Maya was stunned. The polite English she thought was respectful was actually just making her look like a low priority. But the real challenge was Jax. A landlord-tenant relationship is contractual, but a neighbour relationship is social. She didn't want to start a war, but she needed to sleep. She waited until Jax started his 8:00 p.m. practice session. Instead of fuming on her couch, she walked upstairs and knocked on his door. When he opened it, drumsticks still in hand, Maya didn't lead with a trembling smile. She used the acknowledge and align technique. "Hey, Jax, I can hear you're really getting into that new set. It sounds intense. Acknowledge. The thing is, I work in marketing, and my biggest client calls start at 8:00 p.m. The bass drum vibrates directly through my ceiling, making it impossible to hear my calls. Can we agree on a quiet window between 8:00 p.m. and 10:00 p.m.? I'm happy for you to play as much as you want before then." The solution: Jax blinked. For the first time, he actually saw Maya as a person with a life, not just a floorboard. Oh, man. I didn't realize the bass travelled that much. I thought it was just the snare. Yeah, I can shift my practice to the afternoon. My bad. Maya felt a rush of adrenaline. She hadn't been mean. She hadn't shouted. She had used linguistic specificity. By giving him a specific window of time and a specific reason, she had removed the awkwardness of the conflict. However, as she walked back downstairs, she realized that the neighborhood negotiator has to handle more than just noise. Living in a city means navigating a web of unwritten rules, from the sidewalk etiquette to the laundry room politics. Just as she was feeling confident, she encountered the queen of the laundry room, an older woman named Mrs. Gable, who had decided that Maya's laundry cycle was taking too long and had dumped Maya's wet clothes onto a dirty table. Maya realized that while Jax was a direct aggressor, Mrs. Gable was a master of passive aggression. To handle New York, Maya didn't just need to learn how to ask for things, she had to learn how to defend her space from people who didn't play by the rules. Dealing with a direct problem is easy. Dealing with a passive-aggressive neighbor is a chess match. If you've ever had your laundry moved, your parking spot taken, or your personal space invaded by someone playing nice while being rude, you need part 3. Hit that like button to help Maya win the laundry room war. Part 3. The passive-aggressive wall. Maya's success with Jax and Mr. Henderson had given her a new sense of linguistic armor. She felt like she finally understood the directness of New York. But as she walked into the basement laundry room on Saturday morning, she hit a different kind of wall, one that was soft, smiling, and incredibly frustrating. Her laundry cycle had finished exactly 3 minutes ago. When she opened the dryer, her clean, damp clothes were gone. They were sitting in a heap on a dusty, communal folding table. Standing there was Mrs. Gable, a tenant who had lived in the building for 30 years. She acted like she owned every square inch of the basement. "Oh, hello, dear." "Mrs." Gable said, her voice dripping with a fake, sugary sweetness. "I hope you don't mind. I had a very large load of whites, and your machine was just sitting there. I figured you wouldn't be down for a while. Young people are always so busy, aren't they?" Maya felt the blood rush to her face. This wasn't Jax's loud drumming. This was passive aggression. Mrs. Gable wasn't shouting, but she was invading Maya's boundaries while pretending to be helpful. In Maya's old polite English, she would have said, "Oh, I'm so sorry. I should have been faster. Thank you for moving them." But the new Maya knew that an apology in this situation would be a total surrender. It would signal to Mrs. Gable that Maya was an easy target for future favors. She realized that against a passive-aggressive opponent, you cannot use soft English. You must use the broken record technique combined with the neutral observation. "Mrs." Gable continued to chatter about the rules of the house, trying to make Maya feel like a guest. Maya took a breath and interrupted with a calm, flat tone. She didn't raise her voice, but she didn't let it shake either. "Mrs. Gable." The timer on my phone showed 3 minutes remaining. Moving wet clothes onto a dirty table isn't helpful. It means I have to wash them again. In the future, please leave my clothes in the machine until I arrive. "Mrs." Gable blinked, her fake smile wavering. "Well, I never. I was just trying to keep the room moving. You don't have to be so sensitive." This was the trap. When a passive-aggressive person calls you sensitive or emotional, They are trying to shift the focus from their rude behavior to your overreaction. If Maya got angry, Mrs. Gable would win by playing the victim. Maya stayed on the broken record. I understand you wanted to use the machine, Maya said, acknowledging the point without agreeing to it. However, please do not touch my laundry in the future. I will be here on time. She didn't argue. She didn't explain her morning schedule. She simply repeated her boundary. After a tense 10 seconds, Mrs. Gable huffed and turned back to her whites. She had realized that her sweet old lady act wouldn't work. Maya had used linguistic decisiveness to show that she wasn't a target. Later that day, Maya realized that negotiating the neighborhood wasn't just about fighting. It was about building alliances. In a city like New York, the people who keep the building running are your most important international relations. She started practicing the recognition hook. Instead of just saying hi to the staff, she started using their names and acknowledging their hard work with specific detail. To the building super, she said, "Hey, Carlos, I noticed how clean the lobby looks today despite all the salt and slush from the storm. Thanks for keeping up with it." By using her English to provide micro-validation, she was building social capital. She wasn't being fake polite. She was being value-oriented. 2 weeks later, when Maya's radiator started making a terrifying banging noise in the middle of the night, Carlos didn't put her on a waiting list. He showed up in 10 minutes with a wrench and a smile. Maya was learning that everyday English is a balancing act. You need the steel to handle the Mrs. Gables of the world, but you need the silk to build a community. She was no longer a victim of the city's chaos. She was becoming one of its conductors. She realized that the neighborhood negotiator doesn't just survive the neighborhood, they shape it. Passive aggression is a global language, but boundary setting is the universal cure. If you've ever let someone nicely walk all over you because you didn't want to seem rude, hit that like button. We're finishing Maya's journey in the next part, where she takes her new skills to a local business for a high-stakes confrontation. Part 4. The Brooklyn Victory. Maya's final test didn't come from her apartment building, but from a local boutique dry cleaning shop around the corner. She had dropped off a vintage silk blazer, a gift from her mother, and when she picked it up, there was a jagged tear near the shoulder. The old Maya would have looked at the tear, felt a lump in her throat, paid the bill, and walked out to cry in the street. She would have told herself, "It's just a jacket. Don't make a scene. Your English isn't good enough to argue." But the New York Maya, the neighborhood negotiator, took a breath. She didn't let the clerk bag the item. She held it up in the light. "Excuse me," she said, her voice steady and projecting from her chest, not her throat. "There is a tier here that wasn't here on Tuesday. I need to speak with the manager regarding a repair or compensation." The clerk tried the deflection tactic. "Oh, that looks like old wear and tear? Honey, we didn't do that." Maya didn't get angry. Anger is a loss of control. Instead, she used the receipt of proof. She pulled out her phone and showed a photo she had taken of the jacket before dropping it off, a habit she had developed since becoming more assertive. As you can see in this time-stamped photo from Tuesday, the shoulder was intact. This happened during your cleaning process. I value this business, and I've been a customer for months, but I expect my items to be returned in the same condition I left them. The clerk called the manager. The manager tried to offer a 50% discount on the next cleaning. Maya used the counter-proposal. A discount on a future service doesn't fix the damage to this one. I require the cost of the professional invisible mending at the tailor next door to be deducted from my current bill, plus the refund of today's cleaning fee. She wasn't asking. She was stating the terms of a fair resolution. She used we and us to keep it professional. How can we make this right so I can remain a loyal customer? 10 minutes later, Maya walked out with her jacket and a cash refund for the repair. She realized that the manager wasn't giving in. He was respecting a customer who knew her rights and spoke with linguistic authority. As Maya walked through her neighborhood that evening, the city felt different. The sirens were still loud. The subway was still late. And Jax was probably upstairs warming up his drums. But the city didn't feel hostile anymore. It felt like a conversation, one that she finally knew how to participate in. She realized that everyday English isn't about having a perfect accent. It's about space. It's about having the language to say, I am here, I have rights, and I belong in this conversation. By learning to complain, to set boundaries, and to negotiate, she had stopped being a tourist in Brooklyn. She had become a neighbor. She climbed the stairs to her apartment, nodding to Carlos in the lobby and ignoring a frustrated look from Mrs. Gable. She opened her door, sat in her quiet kitchen, the leak now fixed, and realized that the greatest American dream isn't just moving to a new country, it's finding the voice to live in it. Maya's story is a reminder that being nice is not a substitute for being clear. In every culture, there are people who will take advantage of silence. Your English is the tool that ensures your boundaries are respected. The Neighborhood Negotiator Challenge. Is there something in your life right now that you've been putting up with because you're afraid to complain in English? A broken tap? A late delivery? A noisy neighbor? This week, use the PSI formula, problem solution, impact. Write it down. Say it clearly. Don't apologize for having a problem. Watch how people respond when you treat yourself with respect. If Maya's journey helped you find your assertive voice, make sure to subscribe to the English Oasis. We believe that your English should work for you, not against you. Like this video to support more stories of global survival. Stay tuned for topic 3, where we follow Ken, who faces the ultimate high-pressure language test, navigating a foreign hospital and becoming his own health advocate. Stay global, stay curious, and keep negotiating your world.